Everyone, welcome as we continue our study through the New Testament, looking at the New Testament church. And today we're starting Second John. We're going to be in Second John 1, 1 through 3. And like I kind of mentioned yesterday, Second John's short, so we're only going to be in this for 3 days. It's actually the shortest book in the New Testament. So it's going to be one of the, not going to take a lot to go through, but we'll go through this. We'll read it. And I'll give you some of the notes, just kind of an introduction into Second John, and we'll go from there. So Second John verses 1 through 3 says, "This letter is from John the elder. I'm writing to the chosen lady and to her children, whom I love in the truth, as does everyone else who knows the truth, because the truth lives in us and will be with us forever. Grace, mercy, and peace, which come from God the Father and from Jesus Christ, the Son of the Father, will continue to be with us who live in truth and love." And so, just to give you a background, like I said, Second John is the shortest book in the New Testament. It only has 13 verses. So we'll look at the first three today. We'll look at the middle section tomorrow, and then we'll look at the conclusion the day after that. The setting of Second John is similar to that of First John. Right, false teachers had been traveling in Asia Minor, teaching a heresy about Jesus. It was known as Docetism, and what happened, what they were teaching, these deceivers, right? They refused to acknowledge that Jesus, the Christ, the divine Christ, right? That he had a physical human body, and that they were trying to persuade others to think the same way. They're like, oh, his body wasn't, he didn't have a real human body, and all this. And so John, is writing to battle this and to confront this, because we do know, and almost I think all the authors of the New Testament write about how Jesus was fully human, and we know that, and he had a fully human body. And so John begins with the standard introduction for a personal letter. The interesting thing that we see here is John mentions truth 4 times in this brief introduction. So in the verse 3 verses, he mentions truth 4 times, and then he'll actually mention it once in verse 4. We'll look at that tomorrow. And so John wanted his readers to know and to live out the truth about Jesus Christ, and to understand the truth about Jesus Christ, and to understand and live out the truth in that relationship with him, and not to be led astray by false teachers. And so it's very important that we understand the truth about who Jesus is, and that we don't get caught up in different things that would pull us away from who he is. And so, these false teachers were doing that. We've got a lot of false teachers in the church today, unfortunately, and on both sides of the aisle, political aisle, whatever aisle you want to do, the ones who lean left, the ones who lean right, however you want to do it. And so, there's a lot of this, I feel, that have either gone way to the right, way too far to the right, and have become more Pharisaic in their teachings and things like that. And I think we see a lot of that in the church, where the churches, we look very similar to the Pharisees that we saw in the early church. But then you have the other side of the spectrum, where it's gone so far to the left that everything and well, everything is acceptable, right? You can be whoever you want, do whatever you want, sin's okay, that kind of stuff. And so we kind of got these two opposite, sides here going, and they seem to be going further and further and further apart from each other. And so we've got to be, do our best to stay in the middle of this, and stick with the truth, right? With what the truth of the Bible says, and and stay with, as John writes about, grace, mercy, and peace here at the end. And so he authors this to the chosen lady. And the Greek word here is I think it's kura is how you say it. It's and to her children. Most scholars believe that the way this should be interpreted is to the church God has chosen and its members. Basically, right? The way that he is saying that, right? To the chosen lady and her children means to the church that he's writing to and its members. However, the Greek word could be the name of a specific individual. It is a possibility, but more than likely it's referring to the particular local church that he's writing to and its believers. And so again, even in the end, if it is, doesn't matter. Not a huge issue, but I like to throw those little tidbits in there when we can, when we come across stuff like that. And so, and he ends this section, this greeting, with grace, mercy, and peace And these are the blessings which, John is confident in for those who live in truth and love, right? This is John writes about, he's known as the author of love, but he writes about truth and love a lot. And we will demonstrate, we will demonstrate by our actions that we are God's children, and that comes through truth and love, living in truth, living in love. If you don't live in those things, then that shows that you're not a child of God. And so those are the things that he emphasizes on. And part of the reason he's doing that is because the people who are part of this sect, part of the ones who are breaking up teaching this false teachings, are not practicing these things, right? They're not being loving. They're not showing grace and mercy and peace to people. And so that's something he writes about in First John, about their behavior and not loving other Christians. And so again, he's reminding them of that as he finishes that up. So as always, I hope you're learning from these. I hope you're gathering from these. We'll look at the body, the middle section of this letter tomorrow, and then we'll finish it up the day after that. So as always, I appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch these. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And like I always say, I appreciate you for watching these, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.